So the purpose of this audio recording is to walk you through the directions to part 1 of the activity for week 2. So let me go ahead and get into Canvas. And I'll go ahead and click the module for this week. So Chapter 2 expands upon the concepts introduced in Chapter 1, going into more depth about informal and formal measures for interviews, tests and observations. So rather than me audio record the lecture, which simply expands on the material from last week, I'm going to help you dig a little deeper and connect learning to real life. Learning about assessment can at times feel pretty dry, so my goal with this lesson is to help scaffold your knowledge by applying the concepts to a real test and 2 case studies. So first of all, we're going to pick apart a real test based on some of the concepts introduced in Chapter 2. And for this, we're going to go ahead and open the Compendium of Assessments, the CDC Compendium of Assessments that's going to be located in week 2. You can see that right there. And it's going to take a minute to download or open up because literally, as you can see, it's 373 pages. This is a really phenomenal resource. It contains literally hundreds of assessments that you can use in your current and future work. And really, this is my go-to resource when I need a psychometric test to formally measure a child in a particular area. And so before I describe the activity, I strongly encourage you to download the compendium as it's no longer available by the CDC, and I promise you at some point in the future you will use this. So what we're going to do today is connect the dots between a test in the CDC compendium and the information in the textbook. So you're going to kind of go back and forth between the two. And so if you look on the discussion board for week 2, you're going to see in part 1 we're going to evaluate a test. And so looking at the compendium of assessments, it's actually broken up into 4 areas: the psychosocial assessments, cognitive assessments, attitudes and beliefs assessments, and behavior and environmental assessments. And so for this exercise, you're going to select any assessment from the compendium and answer a few questions that apply the concepts introduced in the chapter. All the concepts applied are defined in pages 28 to 35. So all the information you need for evaluating a test is in the book. And I know that the compendium may look a little intimidating, so I'm going to walk you through an example. So the first thing I'm going to do is pick a test. Actually, what I'm going to do is open it up from my Dropbox because scrolling through it in Canvas is going to be a little bit arduous, I can see. Okay, so it opened up to the test that I'm going to select for today. So I'm going to select just a random test. I'm going to select a test that is called the Normative Beliefs about Aggression. And you can see on the discussion board, there is 8 questions that you're going to answer for part 1 of this activity. The first question is, name the test. So if I was doing this discussion board, I would say, this test is called the Normative Beliefs about Aggression. Question 2, describe the format of the test. Is it a selected response or a constructed response? And as you can see, this test is a selected response format as a respondent has to choose from a fixed set of answers. Pretty simple, hey? Question 3. What is the category of the test? Is it intellectual ability, aptitude, achievement, career or employment or personality? Justify your answer. So a real simple answer. This assessment is a personality test as it measures a respondent's attitudes towards aggression. Pretty simple, hey? Question 4. Is the test standardized or non-standardized? Once again, justify your answer. So in the question it says, see the table at the beginning of each of the 4 sections. So each 4 section is prefaced with a table that provides an overview of all the assessments. And you can get information about all aspects of this of a particular test from this table. Today we're just going to be focusing on very, very simple characteristics. And so once again, the question asks, is this a standardized or non-standardized test? To be honest, all the assessments in the CDC compendium are going to be standardized. And we know this because over here in the last column, it says developer. And we can see that it's been published somewhere, most likely in a peer-reviewed journal. And for that to be published in the first place, it has to be empirical. So we know that this is a valid and reliable standardized measure. So for that question, you're just going to say, for that question, your answer is simply going to be, this is a standardized measures as reliability is reported in the CDC compendium. And you can see where it says reliability right there. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about, what those numbers means. For now, don't worry about it. We're not going to interpret them today. Question 5, is the test an individual or group test? And once again, it says, see the table at the beginning of each of the 4 sections that provide an overview of each test. So I'm looking at the normative beliefs about aggression. Going up. There it is. And we can see in the third column, it will give you information about whether the test can be administered individually or in groups. And with this particular instrument, it says it can be administered individually or in groups. So my answer for that is the test could be administered individually and in groups. This is pretty simple stuff, but I just want to reinforce some of those basic concepts that were introduced in Chapter 2. Question 4. Is the test a maximum or typical performance test? Why? Remember, maximum performance is where there's a right or wrong answer, and typical performance is just, people's perspective of a particular concept. So in my test, the test would be considered a typical performance, as there's no right or wrong answer. It's just asking people about what their beliefs on normative aggression is or are. Question 7, is the test an objective or subjective test? And very similar to your answer to question 4, all the tests in the compendium are going to be objective tests because they've been developed via vigorous psychometric procedures. So that's all you have to say for that one. Question 8, is the test a scale or a battery? And remember, a scale measures a specific characteristic, whereas a battery can measure multiple characteristics. For example, an achievement test could measure a student's ability across several different domains, such as math, reading, even science knowledge, something of that nature. So for this particular test, it's going to be a scale as it measures a specific characteristic, which is belief about aggression. And that's it. It's just a simple connecting the dots activity. You're done with part 1. The second part of the discussion post for this week focuses on 2 case studies. Just remember, include all of your answers in a single discussion post. So include part 1 and part 2. And for part 1, be sure to include the questions 1 through 8 for the evaluation activity, so I know exactly what you're referring to. As usual, your posts are due Saturday the 27th. At 11:59, and then please respond to 2 of your classmates by Sunday at 11:59. And really, the focus of your responses to your classmates will be on their case studies, not their test evaluation. Okay, well, please let me know if you have any questions about this week's learning activity, and you all have a good week. Okay, bye.